Well, good evening, good evening. I'm Dr. Peter K.B. Saint-Jean, and this is Dr. Rayford Barner. In case you're watching, you're saying, no, they're not the same guys that were there. Doc, we probably should have changed seats. But guess what? We have a part two of this show. And we want to remind you that you are watching the Peaceful World Movement show that is called the Shy Peace Show. The Peaceful World Movement is at 11451 South Michigan Avenue in Chicago, P.O. Box 206308. Chicago, Illinois, 716-603-0992, shypeace.net. And ladies and gentlemen, you can find us there. And I want to remind you that this is the Peaceful Movement Show. The number is 312-738-1060. So for this segment, we have started with the theme of talking about India. And why did I go to India? And why is it that we have spent so much time on the show for the last third show now, talking about the experience in India? And Dr. Barner has some questions he wants to ask me. He wants to interview me about India, right? There's some things he wants to find out. So Doc is going to ask some questions about that. But also we're going to introduce you to Peaceology. And on the 9th of November, as a group of students, my research methods class, and Dr. Barner also teaches research methods in criminal justice, we're taking students to Millikan University in Decatur. And I guess probably you do not know yet, but I was recently elected as the president, the 2018 to 19 president of the Illinois Sociological Association. So that means in 2019, we'll bring the Illinois Sociological Association meeting at North Park University. All of these are nonprofit organizations that have the purpose of education. So I'm extremely excited. Last year we took a bus of students, 18 students, down to Millikan University to do different presentations on what I call social promise, on peaceology, and what we call better news research, because we have a lot of research about bad news. We want to do more research about better news. So the trip to India helped to enhance some aspects of better news research, peaceology, and the work that we do through the Urban Peace Lab, especially as it relates to social promise. So Doc, what do you want to know about India?
Wait, first, we're celebrating something at least this month.
My son's birthday was over the weekend.
No. I've been with you a whole year.
Oh, man. You gonna buy me dinner? That's not how it works. I called it first. I called shotgun, man.
We've been together a whole year.
That's
I just realized that.
It's a year already, Doc?
A year already. Because you were telling me about the conference that you were going to host at North Park and Millikan University.
That's right. Oh, that is right. How was that interview, man, when we sat in there? The brother came in, man. He had a three-piece suit. He's always dressed to the T.
It was a good interview. It was supposed to be 30 minutes. It was 3 hours. So it worked out.
Too many questions for me. He had too many questions for me,
The more you know, the better you are informed.
So 1 year, that's right. Thanks for reminding me that. We were talking about Millikan University.
Absolutely.
It's a quick year. Wow. So we'll be, I don't know if you can join us a Friday. It'd be awesome if you could join us on the trip, or we could talk about that afterwards to see. So what do you want to know about India?
The first question I'd like to ask is, how was the flight from Chicago to India? Because I'm sure a lot of our viewers have never traveled to India, and so we hear about different aspects in India, but how long did it actually take for you to get there? What was that like?
I think it was about 13.5 to 14 hours. It was thereabouts. And I was honestly a little bit antsy about this because the longest I probably had a flight was 8 hours when I flew to somewhere in Europe when I was going to Oslo, So that was about the longest flight I had. And I wasn't sure how I was going to deal with it. But then when I got to the airplane, there was Melene and Felicia, an African-American and a Latino lady from California that happened to be sitting one on the window. The African-American lady was at the window, and the Latina lady was in the aisle, and I was in the middle. So we ended up making conversation. We knew that we were going to the same conference, and one of them said, as soon as the plane takes off, she's going to fall asleep, and she did that. So we rested for a couple hours, and then we woke up, and then we had the last 5 hours we were in dialogue. So the plane ride ended up being really quick, and on the way back, I was writing because I spent so much time with the community and with people that I had not spent much time alone, so I didn't have time to write and read. So I bought some books and I was reading and I was writing. And to be honest with you, I took a nap, and when I got up, I didn't finish my reading. I mean, I almost wish that there was an extra hour so I could have finished what it is that I was doing.
Okay, so it's not a bad flight
Not at all.
going in and out of India. Did you have to stop somewhere by way of?
Well, yeah, from here I flew into Newark, New Jersey, and then
Okay.
from Newark, that's when the 14 hour flight was. Very comfortable, great student. I flew United, very comfortable flight and great services on the way.
Okay, so Doc, let me ask you about the conference. What was the sole purpose of the conference, and how many people attended? And can you share a little bit about their backgrounds, those that you had an opportunity to interact with?
Yes. So the conference was entitled the World Summit to Counter Violence and Extremism. And it was put together by an organization called From India with Love, headed by a gentleman by the name of Manda Apteke. And he and with Deepak, they were Deepak's actually he has an interesting joke. He's a funny guy, right? So he said he works for a fruit company called Apple. So he's an Apple engineer, but that's the joke you get from an Apple engineer, right? So Deepak was awesome. He helped us. I had to get a visa, by the way. If you had to go to India, you need a visa. When I was going to Brazil, I had to get a visa, but it took a little bit longer. But India had an e-visa, and I applied like at 11 o'clock in the night, and by the time 7 a.m., my visa was already approved. Of course, there are 9 hours or so, 9 hours.
They're ahead.
Yeah, 9 hours or so ahead of us. So it was easier for that to be the case. But so the people that were there, from what I was told, that they came from, we had about 35 persons that came from different countries, and then we had about another 150 people within India that joined us.
Okay.
Because we first went to Mumbai, that was called Mumbai before. We spent the first 3 days there, 2.5, 3 days, and then we went to Bangalore, where the location of the Art of Living Center is, the Atrium is.
Okay.
And then after that was done, I went on October the 3rd, it ended. I went there the 29th on the 26th, actually I left on the 26th of September, but because it's like I lost a day, right? Because it's like the time just traveling.
Going forward and
Right,
coming back.
Coming back, and again sometime coming back. But then I went to Shanghai, which is where Deepak is from, and it's kind of towards the southeast section of the country. And the idea of the purpose of the conference, they do not call it a conference, Manda called it an unconference. The purpose of the summit was to bring different practitioners and academics together to discuss this issue about how do we create a more peaceful world. And it turns out that Manda and Deepak are trained with the Art of Living tools that include meditation and yoga to be able to create a balance for people to be able to get a better sense of themselves, to get a better sense of their family and their surroundings, and to be able to stay in balance, to be able to create a more peaceful world.
Wait, you did yoga?
Yeah, I did yoga, man.
Come on.
You don't know the truth, man. If you saw some of the pictures, they said they had some chairs, and they said you had a choice to either sit on the chairs or sit on the floor. And I'm a Army veteran. And I've done some of these things, and I know like my thighs are strong, right? So to fold my legs and that type of thing. I mean, there are people with strong legs that can do that, but I don't have the gift of flexibility. So I just stayed on the chair, bro. I just sat in the chair. Call me what you want. I just sat in the chair, and the breathing. So to do the yoga, I couldn't do yoga on the chair. I had to do the yoga on the floor. But we had some breathing exercises. We had to have our hands on our laps, and we had to be able to. So the whole idea about the breathing, right, is that like in life, a lot of violence happens because people get caught up in the past. Something that somebody did to you before, ex-boyfriend. One of the artists have a song, "You Remind Me of a Girl That I Used to Know."
Okay.
Somebody could just remind you of somebody. It did nothing to you, but it just remind you of somebody. Some kids catch hell because they look like their daddy, and the mother and the dad have a bad relationship. So some things of the past could really trouble your mind to prevent you from really focusing on now and what's going on. And some things in your mind could be so focused on the future, like what grades you're going to get, are you going to get a promotion, when you're going to retire, whatever it is.
Okay.
And the past and the future can really create a lot of problems. Like focusing on the past or the future can create a lot of problems for you in the present. So the question is, how are you going to be able to live in the present? And our instructor told us that the only thing that exists in the present is your breath. Because when you breathe, it goes. But the only thing you're doing currently is breathing. Whatever your soul has gone, whatever you heard has gone, but your breathing is constant. And,
Okay.
and basically, so if you think of life as the span of time between your first and last breath, and first inhale and the last, your first breath, which is an inhale and exhale, and your last breath is your inhale and exhale, then you can think about life as the span of breathing between that first and last breath, that first and last inhale, the first inhale and exhale, and the last inhale and exhale.
Okay.
So the question is why? So what breathing techniques do is they force you to focus on the present. And I'll give you an example.
Okay.
So if we just breathe in, right? We breathe in for about 4 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if we breathe out for about 6 seconds and we hold it, 1, 2, and then we breathe back in, and then we hold the breath. When you hold the breath after breathing in and breathing out, you almost must focus on your breath. Because if you're out of breath, I mean, what else? If you're out of breath, I mean, you're going to struggle and try to get to breathe. So it's amazing what the breathing techniques do is help to discipline your mind to focus on the present. And it's amazing when you do that, and of course you can float to the oxygen. You have in the right posture. There's just one technique where our hands were up like this on our thigh, and then we have another one that we did. We had our hands like this, and then we had one that we use our hands up and down. So you get exercise, breathing in and out. It was. It's interesting. I'm interested in the science behind it. Of course, there's science behind meditation.
Okay.
And what the yoga was supposed to do, I actually got the opportunity when I was driving. We were supposed to be 4 hours from Mangalore to Chennai, but it ended up being longer. And I was next to a yoga expert who had written a book. I was reading a book on an expert, a Japanese lady. That is just awesome. You see some of the pictures that she does. I mean, she lives in New York City, and somebody was renting her apartment, so she decided to be in India for a month. And I got all this time with this lady next to me, telling me, like giving me right off the book about yoga. And I had studied in Tokyo, Japan before, so I have some ideas about Shinto and some of those things. So it was fascinating, but what she was telling me was about how yoga, and even when I was doing yoga, because, I mean, I'm not very flexible, right? So when I was doing the yoga and I ended up in positions of discomfort, what she was telling me was to like forget, don't hurt yourself, but don't let the discomfort overtake you. Like push into the barrier a little bit. So the discomfort we feel when we stretch, that actually is metaphoric to facing challenges in life. Okay. And if you take those challenges on, eventually you'll get better at taking it on, because some people are not as flexible in the beginning, but after a while, their body responds.
They loosen up.
It loosens up.
So tell the people who we are.
Well, again, we are here at the Peaceful World Movement, here at the Can TV show called The Shy Peace Show. Peaceful World Movement is at 11451 South Michigan Avenue, P.O. Box 206308, Chicago, Illinois, 60628. And we can be reached at 716-603-0992, www.peacefultheshypeace.net. And you can reach us there. And we want to remind you that this is a live call-in show for those of you who would like to call in, 312-738-1060. Don't let Dr. Barner intimidate you. And don't let Sarah is nice on the phone, and Sarah is waiting for some calls. So you can go right ahead and call us in.
So I have another question.
Sure.
So tell me what your hotel or lodging experience was like in India. Where did you stay?
Man, one thing I regret that I didn't do is I didn't take a video or pictures of the entrance to our hotel.
Okay.
I stayed at the Marriott Courtyard in Mumbai. And for the very first time in my life, remember I spent 12 years in the United States Army. I've traveled to a lot of places in the world. And for the very first time in my life, I saw guards using mirrors to check underneath your car, lifting your hood, checking underneath your hood, opening up your trunk, and checking the trunk, and using the mirrors to check under, looking for bombs. Because on 11/26, there was a bombing in one of the hotels,
Yes.
the Charles Hotel, right? And that changed the whole atmosphere. That is the equivalent to 9/11, right? That happened in 2008.
2008.
So 11/26, 2008. So when I entered, I thought I was entering like not even a military base. Because the military bases, when I was in boot camp, I mean we didn't have that then. And even when I went to bases recently, I didn't see that extent of security. And then when I went in, then when we got out of the vehicle, I had to take my bag from my vehicle and put it through a scanner like you're going to the airport. And then when I put it through the scanner, I had to take the items out of my pocket and put it in a container and walk through security.
Okay.
And the people are like, oh, I'm not staying. It's interesting because you show up and the guy is there. Well, weapons, I don't remember seeing weapons. But the guard is there, he's a position of authority, but he said, I'm not staying. He greets you good day. And then he opens up your trunk, checks you out, and then you go through this security thing, and then the woman greets you pleasantly. It kind of messed with me a little bit.
But once you got past the checkpoint, that was the only time you saw that.
Yeah, once I got a checkpoint, they're very pleasant, extremely pleasant people that don't want you to carry your own bags. I'm very professional. The place looks like the Marriott anywhere in the world. So it's just nice world-class place, a nice gym on the outside, a 24-hour gym and a pool on the outside, and nice amenities. And we were encouraged to participate as vegetarians, like Sarah. Sarah is a vegetarian for 3 years. I was a vegetarian for not even 3 weeks, Sarah. I was there for like the third day. Now, you know what, Sarah, I didn't have much cravings, but for the entire time that we were participating, I decided to follow the vegetarian and no alcohol recommendation. I'm not sure that I felt much physical difference. I mean, there were some things, little things, but I mean, I have no problems with that because I mean, I'm not that crazy about meat anyway. But that night we sat and we had some Indian dinner because I was a little bit worried about not having meat, but they had such options. I was like, who needs meat?
Oh, okay, yeah, that was going to be my next question. What was the food like? I mean, in the spirit of Anthony Bourdain, parts unknown, given this is your first time going to India, what was the food choice or the food options like? I mean, what did you eat?
Yeah, one of the interesting things, somebody told me when I go to India, they want me to bring back for them some curry. And when I went to India and I was asking people for curry, they said, actually curry is not so much an Indian. People make their spices and like curry, but people think you get bags and, suitcases of curry out of India. So that's one of the things, But once we came, there are foods, they're very colorful. Some of them are spicy in terms of they're rich in flavor, but it's spicy in terms that they may be hot. But also, a lot of the foods, like the vegetables, like the vegetarian dishes, man, that stuff is awesome. I went to a pop-up dinner, like some guy at a pop-up restaurant, and the guy served vegetarian sushi, right? Now, he took a pineapple and he sliced the pineapple, and if I showed you the picture, you would swear this is tuna. And he had something else that he made that looked like it actually looked like we were eating some other like shrimp or something of that sort, using vegetable. And the carrots were well sliced, and the salad bars and the different peas and so on. I mean, you will just get full just by trying a few things.
So it was pretty tasty.
Yeah, it was pretty tasty. It was very tasty. What was interesting to me was a juxtaposition of kind of wealth and poverty. People did it in India. You hear a lot about ahimsa, which is unconditional love, and we spent a lot of time learning about what Mahatma Gandhi knew from the Jain philosophy, and we visited temples for us to learn about how Mahatma Gandhi and others thought about peace in the context. But then at the last day, we didn't have as part of the tour a trip to the slums. But I mean, for working in the hood for much of my work, I'm like, I can't go to India and not visit the people in the so-called hood. So we took a tour there, and the tourism pack, I really recommend that. There's a young man who actually has a business giving people tours of the slums. And it's amazing. Once we went there, Rob Carr from Chicago, he and I, we went there together. And it was amazing once we ended up in the slums and we see the amount of, the slum, at least the one that we went to,
Okay.
is the one, the movie Slumdog Millionaire.
Oh, Slumdog, yeah, okay.
That's where it was, Larry. So we went there and we saw a lot of businesses. It's amazing to see the conditions that people are working in, but the things they are creating with recycling and the people's lives, you know. So it's interesting that it's good to see, to talk about peace among people who are very fortunate, but it's also important to talk about peace about people who have challenges of peace every day.
Was there a discussion about, given you went to the slums, was there a discussion about what is violence like in those areas that are considered slums, or did that ever come up as a discussion?
Yes, while we were there, and when we pulled aside and I talked to people, and while we were talking to our tour guide, and one of my faculty members at North Park University, one of my colleagues, he grew up in the slums in Calcutta, you know, or maybe Delhi, one or somewhere up north. So he told me a lot about this, but some of the people that we met, they were not, the violence is, they don't have a lot of shootings and murders and so on in the communities, because it's so difficult to find weaponry. And a lot of the people believe in the idea of peacefulness, you know, in their own way. A lot of them through the Hindu religion or through the other religions, some of them are Muslims that believe in peace. And a lot of the people, because of the conditions that they're in, they have to live, you know, like people know who you are. And it's better for people if you have a conflict and you address it. And when I spoke to young children that were in school and I asked them to what extent do they have violence in their school, one place we were playing, I went to play cricket with them. And when I played cricket with the kids, I was talking to them about violence and peace in their schools. And a lot of them were saying that they just basically squash the beef themselves because it just doesn't benefit them that a teacher has to step in to be able to help them deal with something they have to deal at a young age. Why have enemies? So one of the guys said, I actually have it filmed, but he said, well, you know, at our age, we should be having friends, not enemies. You know, so the philosophy, the idea of the national identity to some degree of ahimsa or unconditional love, or more so associated with peacefulness, has trickle down effects in the economy. Of course, in the society, of course, not everybody, right? Some people get involved, but you would think that with all of this high concentration of poverty in this area, that you would see a lot more wanton violence in those settings.
And that wasn't the case.
That wasn't the case, at least with the slum that I visited. They are not. I mean, there are people that steal. There are some isolated robberies that happen, and people do the hustling and so on. But it was not the type of gunshot stabbing, ambulance chasing type of.
So not at the scale that one would think, not having the opportunity to travel to India to actually see for themselves.
Yes, and somebody with, oh my gosh, I go to the slum, people are going to rob me, people are going to stab me, people are going to shoot me. You do not even get the feel. Like, it doesn't even feel. I mean, I've been to a lot of hostile environments, and you know what it is like to feel the danger kind of around you, because you know that from your own experiences. You have the feel of that is depressed, but you don't have that. I didn't have that feel of danger, neither did Mr. Carr. Well, I just saw the 1 minute warning, which is down to 30 seconds, sir. We have to get out of here. Any final words for our viewers?
Escalate peace.
Yes, he's going to talk to us about escalating peace the next time. He's just giving us a hint. Dr. Rayford Barner here, adjunct professor at North Park University. Dr. Peter K.B. St. Jean, chair of the sociology department, director of criminal justice at North Park University, representing the Peaceful World Movement on the Shy Peace Show. We thank you so much. We thank you for this extra courtesy of half an hour to watch our show, and we will see you on next week. Have a good night.